Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone. That gentleman right there is Devin. And we got two more horror movies for the end of this month right now. Right here for you.
You thought we were doing Halloween, but we're not. We're not.
We're not. We got Last Night in Soho.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown.
This was directed and written by Edgar Wright. Comes from the famed movies of Shaun of the Dead and also At World's End and Baby Driver. All of those great, Edgar Wright films, and of course Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I love Edgar Wright. It's just like my same feeling with Sam Raimi. Okay, he got style. He has great little cutscenes. He has little quips when it comes to pop culture. Edgar Wright is the man.
I will say Edgar Wright is really good at like music drops. Like there's a lot of music in this one, and we talked about music drops in Cruella, and I thought they were done really clumsily and bad and annoying, and they would sit there and play these like pop songs almost in full, and you're just like, oh my god, and the characters like slowly making their way down the stairs so you can finish the song and all this stuff. In this movie, I thought that the music was really well integrated, and I thought the soundtrack was like incredible. For a little background, the main character in this film, she is obsessed with the 60s. She loves the 60s. It's like she loves 60s fashion, she loves 60s music, she loves everything about the 60s. And this movie is dominated by a soundtrack that is just like busting with great 60s tracks. Like I love the music. It was great.
Yep, and that character is played by Thomasin McKenzie, and she's been in some other movies. One of the movies that we rated so low was Old. She was the girl in that. It deserved that low score.
That was a rough one.
The counterpart to her character in this film is called. Her name is Sandy, and it's played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Of course, fame of. The one that I remember her from was the New Mutants.
We did the New Mutants, and she was also in Glass.
Glass.
Yeah, she was in Glass, and she was in the other one. What was the other one before that one, where we didn't realize it was a sequel to Unbreakable? What was that one?
Oh man, the thing, something dealing with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So
Split. There it is. Split.
She plays Sandy, and Sandy is a woman that is very ambitious. She's like, I'm gonna make it as a singer in this town. Now, here's a weird thing, people. Anya Taylor-Joy's character, Sandy, she's actually in the 60s. Her character is based in the 60s. You see everything in the 60s. But Thomasin McKenzie's character, which her character's name is Ellie, or her name is Eloise, it's in present day time.
Throughout the film, it's a mystery as to how she can interact with this girl seemingly from the 60s. She initially thinks it's just her imagination, just a really vivid dream, until suddenly she's because they're both in London, and she's recognizing landmarks from her dreams through Anya Taylor-Joy's life. She's recognizing them in real life, and she's not from London, so she's never seen these places before. She's from some outskirts from some outskirts place, and she just came to London to study fashion. And so when she starts recognizing landmarks, she's like, "Oh, am I having visions? What's happening? What is this?" And to me, this is where the movie is at its absolute best, because they really planted all kinds of stuff early on that could possibly explain how she's seeing this. Like we learned early on that her mother had maybe some kind of mental issues because she committed suicide, and so perhaps maybe schizophrenia runs in her family. And now she's seeing visions that she shouldn't be seeing, that no one else seems to see. It's just she's the only one that can see this kind of stuff. So for a long time, you're like, how is this possible? Does she have a really vivid imagination? Is she schizophrenic? Or is she like actually seeing something that happened? Is she witnessing history? Because she's passive when she sees all this stuff. She's passive. People don't really interact with her. She's just kind of watching as Anya Taylor-Joy lives a version of life that she kind of wishes that she could live. Maybe not with the singing, but just like the fame and making it in London. Until she realizes, of course, that Anya Taylor-Joy's life is not as blessed and amazing as she initially thought. And
It
what started off as, really nice and pleasant turned into terrifying and scary, which is why it's a horror film.
Yeah, it's the things that I guess we can go into a little bit of spoiler territory here if you haven't seen the movie by now. This movie delves into abuse, taking young women, promising one thing but using them for another, for sexual gain and monetary gain. It was colorfully depicted, but it was so like raw in a way.
Well,
so
with how it was shot, the movie trains you early on to look for reflections, right? Because early on in the film, we learn that she can sometimes see her mother. Her grandmother is worried about this, but not overly concerned. And when she sees her mother, it's always in a reflection somewhere. And her mother's usually smiling, and it's a pleasant thing that she can see her mother, her dead mother. And again, it's always in reflections. And as the movie goes on, these reflections get wilder and wilder and wilder, more extreme. She starts to see Anna Taylor-Joy in the reflection where she should be seeing herself. And then when Anna Taylor-Joy is there, we're seeing Ellie there in the reflection instead of seeing Anna Taylor-Joy. Sometimes there's like 5 or 6 versions of each one riddled in the background. Like it gets really like fanciful and really creative use of reflections. Like I think the way this film was shot was awesome. Now I also got a really unique experience because I saw this film in 35 millimeter. So it had all like the scratches and pops on it. So it looked and felt so much like an older film. So listening to the music and seeing like the scratchy film and like it was a really great experience.
Here's the thing where it comes into a writing flaw for me.
There are a few writing flaws here.
Yeah, there's a few writing flaws.
Yeah, this ain't all roses, man. This ain't all roses. Not for me anyway.
She could see her dead mother in the mirror, and she sees other dead figures in the mirror with the exception of one. One person is not dead in this mirror that she's looking at. That's a writing flaw. How can she see this person and then it turns out at the end that this person is not dead?
Well, I think she's sensitive. What's ultimately revealed, like we're not sure. The movie goes a long time without revealing what exactly she is seeing and how she's seeing it until they ultimately reveal that she's somehow like sensitive to other times. I don't know. They don't really specify it. She's just sensitive, and so she can see the life that another character had, but in the 60s. And I guess that's a good point that Anna Taylor-Joy's character, she was alive in today's world, but she also assumed another character was alive too. So I don't know. I suppose it could be a writing flaw, but to me the big writing flaw to me was you could tell this was written by a white man, in that when it comes to the 60s and it comes to pop culture 60s for white people, Edgar Wright had it down to like minutia. Like when she goes to the bar, she doesn't order, a vodka tonic. She orders a Vesper, which is of course James Bond's drink, right?
Yes,
from Dr. No.
And Thunderball was actually on the
it was playing on the marquee. Mm-hmm. Like he has some really great minutia when it comes down to 60s pop culture for white people. This is the character that idolized the 60s. She was all about it. She loved it. But the 60s wasn't so great for a lot of people, for most people. Now you say, Devin, who cares, right? The main character is white. So what? Yeah, but her boyfriend is black. And his blackness becomes kind of a problem. Because I feel like if I were there, I feel like I would say something. I'd be like, are you sure the 60s were all roses? Are you sure? You know what I mean? Am I the right person you want to be dating for that? And then later in the film, where our villain, who we learned was Anna Taylor-Joy the whole time, this is the big twist, she's running around chasing after the black guy with like a knife and threatening to kill the black guy. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna do something with this. Someone who is symbolic of the 60s chasing after a black guy through a burning house. Nope, just goes right over the writer's head. He doesn't. This is unmentioned, uncommented. I think it just kind of happened that way. And then on top of that, our black character had black characteritis. He had magical Negroitis. He had nothing. He had no agency. He had nothing. The second he appeared on screen, all he wanted to do was help Ellie. The first thing he says was, "Can I help you?" when she's struggling up the stairs.
The term magical Negro is actually used to describe supporting black characters in movies whose only purpose in the film is to help the white hero. We've seen it many times in movies like Fix My Golf Game, Fix My Penis, Fix My Dumbass Kids.
And we know nothing about this man. All we know is that he wants so bad to help her. He puts himself in the most extreme danger to help her.
Yeah.
Like, so that is a racist film trope that happens to a lot of black characters who are just the helper characters. They have no. Do you know this man's last name?
No.
Do you know his first name?
His first name, actually,
don't
on
look
the call,
at IMDb. Don't be cheating.
On the call sheet, it just says John.
John. That's it. And that character was about as bland as that name. So like, these kind of things, it seemed to have like missed Edgar Wright when it came to the writing. Like I don't think he had enough non-white people in the writing room to help him out here. And then I'm gonna keep going on and on about this writing, because once it's finally revealed as to what's going on, my interest in the film, like, dumped out. Like, it was like such a great film, such a great build up, such a great setup, all this so it can turn into a chase movie where a character's literally chasing people upstairs with a knife. Like it turns into, a bad version or a corny version of like Michael Myers. And I'm like, oh, really? We're just running around through a house with a knife now? After all that setup, all the mirrors and all the mystery, and it ends up with a person with a knife running around the house? Damn. And even in that house, I'm gonna keep going on forever.
Let's go.
The villain.
What is the Mostly Wrong Opinion is about? It's about you going on rants.
In the end, in that villain, she poisoned Ellie. She poisoned Ellie by having her drink something, and the poison did nothing because it like froze her for a second when it was convenient for the plot. But when it was time to run, she was sprinting around like it wasn't nothing. It's like he forgot that he introduced poison in that scene, like, because it had nothing nothing to do with anything. So to me, it felt like Edgar Wright spent a lot of time with the concept, the plot, and the setup for this film. He put in a lot of work in making it look pretty. He did a lot of work in making the 60s look awesome. I don't know if it was authentic or not, but it sure looked incredible. But that ending, that third act, man, he must have wrote that on the way home. He was like on the way to the studio writing that. It was like, oh, it was fast. You could tell it was rushed. So that ending, such a great movie. I thought. I don't think it necessarily crashed and burned, but it kind of like screeched to like an uncomfortable halt. You know what I mean?
Screeched to an uncomfortable halt. Landed without the landing gears totally being out of the side of the plane.
Yeah, exactly. We landed and like I'm smelling smoke. You know what I'm saying? It's like I think I see some fire outside the window. I'm like, damn, what the hell happened here?
We made it on the ground, but
this flight was so great a second ago. What happened here? There's also some weird, interesting things with like he talks about. He has some feminist themes going on. Like he talked about prostitution, and mostly the villains were men forcing this woman into prostitution.
White men.
Yeah, white men forcing this woman into prostitution. But in the end, they say, "Help me, help." So, are we supposed to be sympathetic with them? Like, like the spirits were like, "Help!" I'm like,
it's like, why would I help you? You guys were assholes.
Yeah, and I think someone must have noticed this, and they made him tack on this thing because literally the next scene after they're like, "Help me," and it's supposed to be all sympathetic. Another character turns to the camera and it's like, but they were all bad guys. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry. They deserve it. They deserve what they got. And it's like, okay.
The character, she was like, they deserve to die. And she was
it's like, okay. Yeah. I knew that when you showed me pimping them out and having sex on the bed.
Smacking them and drugging them up.
I didn't need that tacked on, but all right. You just want to make sure we knew that you knew that I knew that they were bad guys. Like, okay, I get it.
Oh man, people. This This film was a roller coaster of emotions based upon, the visual aspects and then the writing, of this. Sometimes when you have a director that you really, really love, what do you call it? Falling in love factor. and that's exactly what it is when it comes to me. In some parts, some directors, they can do no wrong, but I do understand Devin's plight in this film.
And I understand your points too, because there's a lot to love here. You know what I mean? It looks great, and everything except that ending was fantastic. So there's a lot to love. But like I said before, when you start thinking about it, you start chewing on it, you start shaking the movie a little bit, things start shaking loose, man. And it's not the movie's not as tight as I think Edgar Wright wanted it to be.
It makes me think sometimes, like, do these people need to go back to writing school?
No, I think finishing a film, or at least finishing a story, is hard. You know what I mean? I think coming up with a reasonable ending is hard, and most people spend a lot of time on the setup and the beginning and all this stuff, building tension and all this, but they don't spend a lot of time on the ending. And you can tell where his efforts went, because everywhere where he worked on hard, like with those reflections when they're in the nightclub and all that stuff, awesome. It was incredible. It was amazing. The fashion, the music, incredible. There's even like a dance scene where they're dancing. That was awesome. But that ending, flat.
Yeah. Not noticing the racial differences. Yeah, flat.
Exactly. And again, it's not to say like Edgar Wright was like did that on purpose. You can tell he didn't. It just went over his head. He just didn't think about it. It wasn't a concern of his. When he thinks of the 60s, he thinks of James Bond. When I think of the 60s, I think of water hoses and dogs and stuff. So you know what I'm saying? So, it's just different experience. That's just how it is. That's why you need different kinds of people in the writing room with you. You know what I mean? Like, so they can bring in, if I were writing, I want him so he can bring in this James Bond stuff. If he's writing, he wants someone like me to bring in some of the racial tension stuff that just goes right over his head. So it just happens, That's why diversity is the key, man. It's the key.
It's the key, man. It's the sauce.
I do think this movie could have been great if it hadn't tripped so hard over some of the racial issues and the ending, and if it hadn't tripped so hard, actually, I think this movie could have been great. It was really good, and it was surprisingly unfunny for an Edgar Wright film. Edgar Wright films are usually really funny. This one was like not funny, and that's not a bad thing. That's like a positive. Like it was great. He was clearly doing something new. Like it's great.
With all that said, people, we're gonna go to our rating on this film. Visual aspects was really, really cool. The way that he directed this thing, especially this one part when they were dancing and it was an interchangeable part between.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
I was like, what?
Yeah, because it looked like it was done in camera. I know it wasn't, but it looked like because like you're right. There, it was two characters that are dancing. They're dancing really close, and it all looked like one take. But the girl keeps switching. Like every time they move. It's one actress. They move again. It's a different actress, and it was done so smoothly. I was like, "Wow, awesome!" Yeah. Or another standout moment was when they were coming down the stairs, and you could see Ellie's reflection, and it was like multiplied like 7 times over behind her. Yeah, awesome stuff, man. Yeah, incredible. But then the ball, losing its air when we see about how it was written and put together like he was on the toilet and he had a lot of diarrhea at the time and he couldn't find no toilet paper and he's like, I can't wipe it with this. I gotta finish this. I gotta get up and find this paper. So just that ending, like, man.
Bloody hell.
That's right.
But I'm gonna go ahead and give my rating on this. This movie was a satisfying movie with a floppy end. I'm going to give this film a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Okay. I do agree this was a satisfying movie. I think it was a very pretty movie. I loved the fashion. I liked the atmosphere. I liked the idea, the concept. But it's like watching a gymnast or something do like the greatest routine and then just fall right on her face at the end. Boom. It's like, oh man, like almost. You almost had something great. You almost had a 10. And so because of the ending, I got knockoff points. I think I'm gonna give it a 7. I think I'll give it a 7.5. I liked that Edgar Wright was doing something different, right? Because we know he usually does comedy. He's doing something different, and he did it well. You know what I mean? So kudos to him for that. She just needed that ending needed some polish, man. That ending needed some polish, and that Unfortunately, the ending's one of the few things you remember. You remember the beginning and the end, and so that ending stuck in my head like a splinter. Had to remind myself what happened in the rest of this film. So, damn, 7.5.
Now, do you recommend this movie?
I do recommend this movie.
All right.
I think it's a fun movie. I think, like you said, I think it's satisfactory. I think if you go into this movie, I don't think you'll be upset. You know what I mean? But if you're the kind of guy like me who likes to think about movies and stew on them for a while, yeah, you're gonna hear some things shake loose, you know. And I'm probably also holding this movie up really high because this is an Edgar Wright film. You know what I mean? I've seen him rock it, you know, time and time again. I've seen him very consistently rock it. So I might be holding him up just a little bit higher than some other directors. But so I do recommend this movie. But again, that ending, damn.
What's your favorite Edgar Wright film?
I wish I had a really creative answer for you, but it's Shaun the Dead, like everybody. Like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Shaun of the Dead. Next one up is Baby Driver. After that is Hot Fuzz. So
Hot Fuzz is great. Baby Driver, damn. Baby Driver could have been great, except they had the pedophile in there as the villain.
That is true.
Damn. Not Edgar Wright's fault.
And we didn't even know at the time. So.
No, couldn't know. So now his face is all big on the picture, on the poster, and man. But anyway, unfortunate. Such a great movie was marred by that. But oh well.
Yeah. So I gave this film a 7. Devin gave this film a 7.5. Go ahead and go to the theater, see this film. You know, it's a good viewing with a floppy end, but you know, whatever you see for yourself, make your own opinion up of it, right? Oh, yeah. That is our review for Last Night in Soho. All right, next up on the chopping block for the next horror thriller movie that we got going on. It's a movie that I thought that was about a demonic deer, but it's not.
What?
Damn you, Bambi Part 2. No, it's Antlers, all right? And this is directed by Scott Cooper. It reminds me of the old school creature horror films of the past. It reminds me of The Fly and The Fly 2. It reminds me of Relic. It reminds me of The Mimic. And, you know, I really enjoyed those films.
I can see Mimic because this was also produced by Guillermo del Toro, which he directed Mimic.
Yes. And it has that human form that's turned into a creature form, but it also has a mythological backstory to it based upon the indigenous Indian community that is up in Oregon. And I there's a lot of confusion that I have in there of like why this thing exists,
yep,
why it's going on with it's eating people. And yeah,
let's just back up a bit, talk about the plot. Yeah. Movie stars Kerry Russell. She is a sad lady who just moved back to her hometown in Oregon, and this is like I think this is like some like rural Oregon. They seem to be like a coal town or something like that. Like this town's two biggest exports seem to be coal and meth, because all people do here is they're sad all the time. They're dirty from working in the mines, and they smell like meth. So this is a very small, creepy town. I actually really liked that setting quite a bit, but I'll talk about that in a second. Kerry Russell, she's a teacher, a middle school teacher, and she has a student that stands out. He is very skinny, very small, very quiet. He's dirty all the time, and she takes a special interest in him. She initially thinks that he is small and quiet and skinny because, well, he's just poor, and everyone knows that his dad is a meth maker, dealer, cooker. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't think. I don't know if his dad actually did meth, but it's unclear.
He sure did. He sure did make it.
Yeah, he definitely made meth. and he was known for making meth. So she initially
wait,
thought.
Wait a minute. How do you? How do you claim to fame? Be a meth maker. It's like some people around town, they bake goods. Some people around town, hey, that's Ted the car salesman. Oh man, that's Frank the meth dealer.
Yeah, that's right. And apparently if Frank the meth dealer is your daddy, you come to school looking sad and messed up, that's normal. You know what I'm saying? People just go, you know. But she's an outsider because she hadn't lived in this town for a long time, and she's like, yo, that kid looks kind of messed up. And pretty much everyone's like, yeah, well, you know, he's the son of a meth dealer. C'est la vie. And you're like, okay, you know. But it turns out he's not sad and depressed and skinny and malnourished just because his dad is a meth dealer. He's malnourished and sad and nervous because he literally goes home and has a literal monster living in his attic. And that monster is his father. His father seems to have been taken, his body seems to have been taken over by some sort of Native American mythological beast, and he is transforming in the attic. And this little boy is doing the best he can to keep himself and his little brother, who's also seems to be transforming, safe. And to me, I thought this setup was awesome. I really enjoyed that setup. I loved the setting. I thought this film looked really cool, which is really normal for this director. He's got a couple of very stylish movies. Like Black Mass looked very stylish, which he directed. Out of the Furnace, another stylish looking one. A Crazy Heart I hadn't seen. So I can't tell you about that one, but I'm assuming it looks just as stylish as these other ones, because I thought he captured this creepy small town vibe really good. But and also that little kid, that little boy, like
Jeremy T. Thomas,
he was outstanding. Like there's a scene where he takes his shirt off and he goes to the doctor. He takes his shirt off and he looks terrifying. Like he is so skinny. So like his face is so sunken in. I'm like, how did they get this kid to look like this? This looks like
method acting, man. They didn't give him no go-gurts. They didn't give him no
child. I was like, this is like child abuse.
They had to make sure he had scoliosis.
Yeah, he looked like it. Like they really had this kid out here looking like he had real scoliosis and like he was really malnourished. I'm like, wow, he looked. I mean, this is great casting. Like, wow, this is great. And this film has really good actors in it. Kerry Russell's a good actor. That little kid's a good actor. Jesse Plemons is a good actor.
Yeah.
But they don't really do much with him. Like they don't, outside of little boy looking scary, they don't really do much with him. Kerry Russell doesn't have anything to do except mope around. And then the real issue, the big issue for me, just like the last film, was the ending. So I liked the idea of a monster living in your attic, or this little boy's attic, and I really, that's like a really scary idea because Kerry Russell, her father, seemed to have abused her, so she also lived with a monster in her house too, a metaphorical monster, where this little boy lives with an actual monster. I'm like, I'm seeing it, I get it, it's cool, but unfortunately, Tyrone, just like you said, this movie is about movie monsters, and the monster can't stay in the attic the whole time. And as soon as that monster gets out of the attic and we've got to see more and more of the monster, boy, oh boy, does this movie fall apart. Oh my God, this movie just like crumbles because this is like a small to mid-budget film. And this director, I guess he didn't have this is going to sound mean, but I guess he didn't have the skill to figure out how to shoot around that budget because it just looked terrible at the end. And
he got out, the CG was kind of eesh.
Yeah. Oh my God! Because the movie ends with like a fight between Kerry Russell and this monster, and I imagine when this story was written, I imagine they thought like, oh, this great epic fight, you know, where these two underdogs, this malnourished kid and this small town teacher fighting a mythological beast. I could see why they would be excited about that. The execution was trash. I was like, I was embarrassed. I was like, ooh, this movie got bad. Like, it took a turn.
And these people that it's like they fall one by one because of course they're doing the typical horror movie tropes of going somewhere alone.
Somewhere they're not supposed to be.
No, not supposed to be. And I was like, Principal Nosebody gonna get roasted.
And she did. And that scene was when I knew we were in for a bumpy ride.
Yeah, because that was the turning point.
Yeah, that was the turning point. This principal goes into the little boy's house, and instead of knocking it, she knocks on the door, no one answers, and she just walks
wandering around somebody's house.
She walks right into the attic. Like, what are the odds of that? Like, who walks into the attic? You know what I mean? Like, what the heck? Was she gonna check under the bed? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, what's the logic in that? And so the whole time I was like, this lady is an idiot. And I could tell that the movie needed her to be an idiot because, like you said, this was the turning point. This needed to happen. My theater, the groans through my theater were loud. They were loud. Everybody was like, I was like,
I had some three people that came in. They're behind me in the theater. I thought they were gonna talk forever, but then they moved down to the front. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna be able to hear them. Nope. At that time, they was like, "You stupid." I was like, yeah, there it is.
but see, sometimes when your audience does that, that can be fun. But you could tell, at least for my audience, that this was just like annoyance. They were like, who would do this? Like they're just annoyed. Like there was a guy in front of me, and he started off the movie like this, right, standing like this, and then he went down like this and like this, and by the end of it, he was like this. I was like, yep, I feel you, dude. I feel you.
Yep. His body language is exactly how the story was written, from exciting to okay, we're going somewhere, to mediocre, to what was this?
Yeah, exactly. This thing took a nose dive. Remember we said about Edgar Wright's film, it landed, but you smell smoke and there might have been a little fire out there. Mm-hmm. This movie just like fell straight down. Boom, nose dive. It exploded right at the end. This movie didn't land so much as just crash. Like I was so shocked by that ending that I was like, how did this movie end this bad? But when the credits started and they said it was based on a novel, I was like, and it all clicks into place. Click, 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 click. I'm like, yep, this would be a great novel because the setup is good, the setting's good. I like the idea for the characters. I'm willing. I've never read the book that this story is based off of, but I'm willing to bet my left pinky toe that all the best stuff is from the novel and all the clunky stuff is new things invented for this movie. For example, Kerry Russell's character, she seems to struggle with alcoholism. I thought this was going to come up at some point. Nope. Like, what was the point of that? We just wasted like 10 minutes to film.
She struggles with abuse from when she was a child from her father. They mentioned it, never carried on with her character from that. It's like,
and even that abuse, right? She said, "Oh, I'm back in the house where my father abused me," and she said, "I used to hide from my father by hiding under the floorboards, under the piano." I'm like, they're gonna hide from the monster under the floorboards, under the piano. Nope, that didn't happen. It's just set up. All that stuff is probably in the book. You know what I mean? It probably had more meaning in the book, but in the movie, completely superfluous, and meant nothing for the film. Just a waste, like that, and that's like to me that's like the biggest sin in the film is that you had such a great idea, a great concept, and it was not done well. So all the setup is really good, but unfortunately, setup is not a movie. That's just setup. You know what I mean? Like the actual movie altogether, dog shit. Like it really fell apart right at the end.
And then we talk about Jesse Plemons' character.
Plemons.
Oh wait, Plemons. Sorry. Waste,
Waste, yep. Great actor, did nothing. Great actor.
And he played the dummy cop. The cop that's like, what? No,
and
I don't believe that.
Apparently there's only like 2 police officers in this whole town. Because they answered every single call. So I'm like, okay, I get it. You got a small budget, but like, come on, dude. He answering every call in this town. He ain't got nobody. Like, okay.
Who's guarding the cells?
And then on top of that, another big problem, talk about racial issues and magical Negro stuff happening in films. There is a Native American character in this film. He serves one purpose, that is to drop exposition. He's a big exposition dump, and when he's done, he literally is sitting at a table, stands up, walks off, and he's never seen again in the film. And you're like, oh, I guess you're done.
It's like, in a more interesting movie, he would be the person that comes with the remedy.
Or he'd be the main character. It's his myth. He's the one that knows what's going on. He's like, it's the Wendigo. The Wendigo is the only monster that I know has this antler and does this, and this, and transfers souls from one body to the next. Okay, bye. And you're like, oh, okay. You're like, oh.
I'm out.
He's like, by the way, you won't believe it. Me, the only person who knows what's going on in the film. I found a body in the mountains. Okay, bye. And you're like, okay. So, like, this movie had a great concept, and it flamed out fast because the way the film is set up, the monster has become a bigger and bigger part of the film, and the monster is unfortunately the worst part of the film. So instead of focusing on Freddie Methhead, the father, instead of focusing on him, he was interesting. The little kid, he's interesting. Kerry Russell's character could have been interesting. Jesse Plemons' character could have been interesting. Yeah. The Native American's character could have been interesting. No, but they focused on this stupid Wendigo monster, which Wendigo monster, which wasn't that interesting. And it looked bad. And they didn't have the budget to make it look cool. So this movie flamed out real bad.
You know what he looked like to me? The monster looked like, okay, got the and antlers, right? Got the face of kind of like a deer or whatever it is, but the body of the queen xenomorph.
Oh yeah, it did so much. You're right, it did. It did. There's also another point in this film where we know Kerry Russell's a teacher, and a little boy is overtaken by the Wendigo, and you think, and I'm like, oh, they've set this up, okay. I'm like, all right, maybe the movie's gonna redeem itself. Kerry Russell, a teacher she's devoted her life to teaching and loving children. Now she's got to kill one? Okay, she's going to have a lot of conflict here. Ooh. Nope. She's like, yop, 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 yop. Yop, 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 yop. Man down. Where you from? I'm like, okay. She didn't even think about it. She knew what she was going to do immediately. She saw a little boy and she was like, oh, well. And, was ready to get to stabbing. I'm like, she didn't have any second thoughts or nothing. I'm like, it's a little boy who looks just like the little boy that you like so much, that you cared about so much. Like, no hesitation at all. Aren't you a teacher? Don't you care? Oh, stabbed him. And I'm like, all right. And she wasn't like dying. She wasn't like, oh, she wasn't hurt. She was like, well, that's done. I'm like, okay. All right.
You ready for some more ice cream?
Exactly. Let me get some ice cream. It's my favorite fruit.
It's my favorite fruit. Yeah. Oh man, see the movie, you'll see where that comes from. So, but yeah. So people, we're gonna get into our ratings of this film. Beautifully shot film, and it had a great concept about it, but it wasn't wove together to make a nice story quilt. It wasn't.
No, that quilt had some serious holes, and I think the person might have died halfway through because there's blood on it or something. I don't know. It's dirty. Mm-hmm. Like that quilt ain't no good. Yeah. No.
The one to keep you warm at night. Mm-hmm. So, I'm gonna go ahead and give my rating. My rating for this film is a 6.5.
Yep. Second year 6.5, but I'm gonna drop you down to a 6. This is a movie that I wanted to like, man. I wanted to like this movie because I liked the setup, I liked the way it was shot. The beginning sequence where you see the little boy walking into the darkness, I thought that was so eerie and so creepy. I liked the meth head father. I liked how he was portrayed because even though he did meth or he made meth, you could tell he was like a loving dad.
He was a loving dad.
Yeah, even when he was taken over by the Wendigo, he locked himself up into the attic. I spent the whole movie thinking the little boy locked him up into the attic, but no, he locked himself up into the attic to protect himself. Like that's a really good little thing they added there. So I wanted to like this movie, but man, this movie fell apart. Man, it just an idea is not a movie. An idea is an idea, and that's what this movie had. It had an idea, but it did not have a movie. So
yeah,
6.
Yeah, it's what it is, man.
But that little boy, I'm interested to see what he does because I thought he did great. Like,
yeah,
did he miss meals? Why did he look like that?
Feed him a burger or something. I mean,
yeah, wow, like that. I think he's got a lot of potential, that little boy. So hopefully he does something with his future, but hopefully he does not make any more movies like this.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. I was like,
okay, my bad.
Recommend this movie?
No, don't recommend it. Unless it's like on streaming, then maybe I'll recommend it because it's so pretty and I like the concept. If it was free on streaming, but don't go to the movies to see this. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
I had that feeling when I was watching it. I was like, yeah, man, this seems like this is a good streaming film. This could have been on Paramount Plus or, on Prime Video. But going to the theater to see this, man, you can wait for it. So I gave this film a 6.5. Devin gave this film a 6. Don't go. Just wait to see it.
Your idea of a zombie deer, that sounds exciting. Go see that. If that comes out, I'll be first in line. But
Bambi 2, Revenge.
Revenge. But this movie, skip it. Stay home. Go do something else. Pet your dog. Do something else. This ain't worth it.
That is our review for Antlers.
Daddy?
We'd like to thank you for clicking on this video. Really appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? While you clicked on this video, you might as well go to the bottom where it says subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Just do it, right? Because, there's things that's on here and movies on here and TV shows reviews on here that you are going to like and enjoy. Okay.
And if you don't like any of those things, look at that awesome poster that he's got back there. That Black Panther poster is back there every week. You could be staring at that. You can be staring at that every week.
Yeah, and you can be staring at, his igloo right there.
Right here. I'm in the igloo right now.
So go ahead and click that subscribe button. We really thank you guys for clicking on this video. It's really, really, really cool. And, you can also do this. You can leave a thumbs up for this video if you really did like our reaction, our review for these movies, or you can leave a thumbs down on this. Whatever it is your opinion. But just remember one thing, people. It's mostly wrong. Yes,
I messed you up. Hey, look, we fucked up the ending just like these movies. It's a miracle.